So you are out in the market looking for a third-party Sony NP-FZ100 batteries for your Sony full-frame camera, and obviously the original Sony battery is overly priced and hence you are watching this video. Today we'll be taking a look at a third-party battery, mainly the Ulanzi NP-FZ100 battery that is compatible with Sony's full-frame camera system. I currently own the A7 Mark III with two original Sony batteries, and I recently picked up the ZV-E1 as my second camera, and it came with only one additional battery. So I have two camera bodies with three batteries, and by the rule of thumb, you should always carry an extra battery for each camera. And so I needed to get some extra batteries as a backup. Since the original NP-FZ100 batteries were actually pretty expensive, I had to dig through a catalog of third-party batteries. As always, whenever making a purchase, I will make sure that it will be the best bang for my buck in terms of value. So I ended up getting myself two additional Ulanzi NP-FZ100 batteries for about 300 ringgit or $62, which is a fraction of the price of Sony's original NP-FZ100 battery that is priced at 382 ringgit or about $80 for a single battery. And the Ulanzi batteries even comes with a built-in USB-C port. With the price out of the way, let's take a quick look at why I decided to go with the Ulanzi batteries over the original Sony batteries, and talk more about the pros and cons of picking up a third-party battery in general, run through some real-life test comparisons with both these batteries, and ultimately answer the golden question: should you consider a third-party battery over the original Sony NP-FZ100 batteries? First, let's take a look at some of the specs comparing the original Sony NP-FZ100 batteries against the Ulanzi batteries. Taking a look at this chart, we can see a voltage difference of 7.4 volts on the Ulanzi over the Sony at 7.2 volts. The battery capacity on the Sony battery being at 2280 mAh over the Ulanzi's at 2250 mAh. The Ulanzi battery weighs in at around 80 grams, about 3 grams lighter than the Sony's battery at 83 grams. The size and dimensions are obviously the same, sitting at 38.7mm in width, 22.7mm in height, and 51.7mm in depth. The Ulanzi battery has two additional features that the Sony battery does not have, which is the built-in USB-C port that is used only for charging the battery, as well as an LED indication on the battery. And last on the list is the price comparison, as we have just discussed earlier. The Ulanzi battery is a whopping 57% cheaper, sitting at around 150 ringgit as compared to the Sony battery at 380 ringgit for a single battery. Now, if I'm not mistaken, there are other third-party batteries that comes in a pack with the charger included, so keep that in mind. And that's basically all about the specs between these two batteries. Now, let's take a look at the build quality of the Ulanzi battery. It is brown in color, and on the top side there is a Ulanzi logo, and right beside it is the arrow indication to insert the battery, and right below it is the LED indication that lights up red when charging and green when it's fully charged. The top, right and left side of the batteries are clean without any labeling, and the bottom side of the Ulanzi batteries have an extra USB-C port solely for charging purposes. Now, towards the bottom side of the batteries are all the labels on the Ulanzi battery. It is stated here that it is rated at 7.2 volts. Strangely, on the website it was rated at 7.4 volts. All in all, they both look 99% identical except for the LED indication as well as the additional USB-C port, and they both feel pretty much the same. Now, before you decide to pick up the Ulanzi batteries, there are a couple of things that you will need to be aware of. This is particularly with the ZV-E1 camera and newer Sony cameras, as there will be a warning prompt upon turning on your camera. According to Reddit, it appears that through some firmware updates, some users experience this warning message and the battery percentage indication to be missing while using third-party batteries. Before the update, there hasn't been an issue, and now Sony added a barrier to ensure that we, the consumers, are using their original NP-FZ100 batteries. So this is how it works. The first 20 seconds after you turn on your camera, you will get a battery indication beside the battery icon, similarly to the Sony original battery. However, 20 seconds later, you will be greeted with a warning prompt that reads, "The operation and safety of this battery cannot be guaranteed." You are to select OK or cancel. Well, technically it actually forces you to choose OK, only then you can proceed to use your camera. And if you were to disagree, then the camera will turn off. In the case where if you have already started recording, the message will block your screen, but thankfully it does not stop the recording. It keeps recording in the background until you hit OK on the screen. Now let's just say if by accident you hit no, it will stop recording and your camera will then proceed to power down. The next thing to note is that the battery percentage indication will disappear after agreeing to the prompt. You are now left with just a symbol of how much the battery is left with. It looks like a 100% to 75% to 50%, to 25%, and lastly an empty red logo indicating that their battery is almost depleted. So this warning sort of pops up every single time you power off and on your camera, which can get a little annoying at times. In the long run, you could encounter some potential hiccups like during your run and gun situation, swapping between batteries on the go and immediately shooting right after. You could face with this warning prompt and it could potentially ruin your shot in a particular moment where you needed critical focus. So just keep that in mind. However, the warning prompt did not appear on my A7 Mark III at all. I believe it was because of the lack of updates on the A7 Mark III as reported on Reddit as we have discussed earlier. Now, we will move on to the testing side of things. Here I have my ZV-E1 recording at 4K 60 frames per second at 422 10 bits with both the Ulanzi and Sony NP-FZ100 batteries to mainly compare the slight 30mA difference in battery capacity to see if this would make a huge difference in the real world. Now, the Sony battery lasted for a whopping 1 hour 50 minutes and 52 seconds before exhausting the battery. The thing to note that is towards the 1 hour and 43 minute mark, the over temperature warning did come up flashing on the screen as well. Now let's take a look at the comparison with the Ulanzi battery being 30mA smaller. This test that I performed was after completing the Sony battery test, which I allocated around 10 minutes for the camera to cool down before proceeding to the next test. However, the ZV-E1 actually overheated at the 40-minute mark, which made me retest this once again. This time, the ZV-E1 with the Ulanzi batteries recorded well up to over 1 hour and 19 minutes until the over temperature sign appeared on the screen again. So I placed a fan nearer to the ZV-E1 as I was more interested to know the battery's performance, since the over temperature issue could be from the ZV-E1 that many users have indeed complained about the overheating issues. In the end, the Ulanzi battery lasted for 1 hour 50 minutes and 8 seconds, falling short by 44 seconds comparing to the Sony's original battery. Now, to sum up the testing results, both the Sony and Ulanzi NP-FZ100 batteries recorded a total of 1 hour 50 minutes, with the Sony leading by 44 seconds of record time from a single take. The user experience from using the Ulanzi battery, well, simply by looking at the battery indication bar made me a little anxious, since the battery indication only shows a quarter percentage update. Being at 76% was actually a full bar, and I wasn't able to tell the exact amount of charge I have left inside the battery. Now, with the performance test out of the way, let's talk about the LED indication that only lights up when you use the USB-C port. It actually has some quirks to it. While the usual red LED indicates that the battery is low and it is currently charging, when the LED indication turns green, it means that the battery is fully charged. Shortly after that, the green LED will go out. Now, here is a tiny problem. If you left your battery to charge on its own and you come back to check on it, and the battery indicator could have already turned off. And fingers crossed that it has been fully charged. So just to make sure, you reinsert the USB-C cable and it lights up red. Now, you are unsure whether the battery is fully charged, thinking that the battery could still not be on a full charge. But the matter of fact is that the battery was fully charged and it takes about 10 to 20 seconds before it turns green again. Well, there is no way to tell the battery's percentage of the Ulanzi's battery without replugging in the cable or checking it on the camera. There is, however, a different third-party company called Nitcore that solves this very problem with a button and indication of the battery percentage. However, with this added feature, the price did went up quite a bit. One battery like this costs about 286 ringgit, which is about $60, while the Ulanzi was about $40. Moving on to the USB-C port on the Ulanzi battery, without a doubt that the USB-C port is very convenient as you can charge the battery directly using a USB-C cable. However, there is one sad thing about this USB-C port, that it does not work as a mini power bank, as you cannot charge your device using the NP-FZ100 batteries like such. There is one final thing about the USB Type-C, is that can the Ulanzi NP-FZ100 battery work as a dummy battery if I use the USB-C cable plugged in directly? The answer is no. Unfortunately, if you are looking to use it as a dummy battery, you are out of luck. This battery cannot supply and receive power at the same time, so you ought to look at some other solutions. To wrap up the video, the Ulanzi battery being able to compete with the Sony original battery with similar results were pretty shocking. To me, that itself in battery performance tests would be considered a win, since I don't usually shoot over an extended period of time. With that being said, the third-party NP-FZ100 batteries from Ulanzi has a high cost to performance ratio, and I would highly recommend it if you are out in the market looking for a budget backup NP-FZ100 batteries. given the neck-to-neck comparison on recording time and the neat little USB-C feature for charging. The downsides again are the pop-up warnings during each turning on of the camera, no battery percentage indication, and the LED notification quirk for the battery when it is fully charged. They should have kept the green LED on until you remove the cable. But who am I to say? So, should you get the Ulanzi NP-FZ100 batteries for yourself? I will leave it up to you. And that is all I have for you guys in this video. I hope you have found this video insightful. If you have any questions at all, do let me know in the comments down below. I'll be sure to get back to you guys as soon as possible. As always, thank you all so much for tuning in. My name is Ken and I'll catch you all in the next one. Stay safe, peace out, and bye bye.